My name is Helene Nymann. I'm a visual artist. I have an exhibition here at Kunsthal Aarhus. So the exhibition is called Ars Memoria, Memes for Imagination. And it came out of a long period of research looking at ancient memory systems and techniques to remember by. These techniques are mainly grounded in visualizations. Ars Memoria means art of memory. And when I first came across this, I was really amazed that there is something called art of memory. So I wanted to really put these ancient techniques into the contemporary art world. To also look at today in the digital age, when memory is more and more being externalized, can we try to internalize it more? And these ancient techniques practice this. So it's a lot to do with visualization and linking what you already know to what you want to remember. And to do this, you use your imagination. In the exhibition, there is a video work called MOL. It stands for Method of Loci, or the Memory Palace Technique. It's translated too from Latin. But it's an ancient technique that enables you to remember a series of information. And what you do is you visualize a well-known structure. It could be the house you grew up in or where you're living now. And within that structure, you put objects that represent what you want to remember. So say you're starting at your front door and you go into the living room and the kitchen and you place an object with a character that has an action. They do an action with this object. So when you want to remember this information, you go back to your memory palace and then you wander from room to room, and then you can actually remember much better what you just experienced or what you wanted to learn. So it is the house I grew up in, and so we wander through that house, and in that I've put anchor points or objects that then represent a certain knowledge to me that I wanted to try to activate, but also just offer to the viewer in form of associations. So when you enter the room, you see 5 rings hanging. It's metal rings, and within them are beeswax, colored beeswax. And the beeswax is a material I took up because in ancient times you would use beeswax on tablets, wax tablets to write on. So I thought it'd be interesting to bring this material back into the exhibition as a way of saying perhaps in this beeswax is a lot of ancient knowledge, or the people walking around in the room, their experience could be captured within this beeswax. But the rings represent, each of them represent an anchor point or a part of research that I made following the art of memory, and yes, the history of memory. So in the round-shaped room in the exhibition, there's a large sculpture hanging. It's actually a representation of the hippocampus in the brain. And the hippocampus is a part of our brain, one of the oldest parts of our brain, and it deals with spatial memory and long-term memory. So when we navigate around in a space, in a city, or when we use a memory technique, wandering from room to room, studies show that the hippocampus lights up. And when I practice something over a long period of time and it creates a long-term memory, this is also the hippocampus in charge of this. So without the hippocampus, it would be impossible to navigate and to remember where I just wandered off to, or even remembered what I just said. So the hippocampus plays a very large part of creating memories. Studies also show that if we don't have the hippocampus, the imagination, creating imaginations is very difficult. So I thought to bring the hippocampus into the art to the exhibition, and to have it there as both a reminder of that it's inside of us, and that we'd be quite lost without it, and then also as a way of saying maybe it's an entity remembering with us. So if we appreciate it and train it, we can perhaps imagine a better future, better ways of living and remembering. Working with memory in a more artistic sense is interesting, I think, because memory is perhaps essentially a very creative act or thing that we do. When we remember something, our memories are always changing. There's a lot of imagination that goes on when we remember something. If you retell a story, you always change different elements or facts in the story. This is a well-known thing that we see. So if memory is a creative act, then putting it into contemporary art or dealing with it artistically is maybe a more precise way to start to work with it or question it or collaborate around it. So when I did the research, there were so many processes also in the memory techniques or systems that reminded me of the artistic process of getting ideas and linking them together and having associations and imagining what would it be in the exhibition space. So the imaginative and the process of remembering kind of comes together in the artistic and creative act very strongly. So hopefully when people experience this exhibition, they will also get stimulated, not only in terms of how to remember, to think about that, but also in generating ideas or creativity. To think about human memory in relation to digital memory, I think human memory is very important, of course, because if we are able to remember what we've experienced, where we come from, it's easier or maybe more sustainable to create or imagine a better future. Or if I can create associations and I have a vivid imagination, ideas come easier, and putting it into a structure of different memories or experiences, I think for everyone, because we can all do these exercises and we all have a memory, it brings us back into the present. It brings us into where we are now and enable us to really think about how we think and how we remember how we remember, and then become more active in combining different temporalities, past, present, future.